Pokemon Emerald Legacy, another entry in the TheSmithPlays Legacy series of ROM hacks. In this one, we've got plenty of great changes like improved stats and learn sets, better encounter variety, harder gym leader and Elite Four fights, and of course, a hardcore mode. Pat said this about the mode in his release video.
Hard forces you to play in set mode, but just as all major trainers have had their healing items removed, you can't use items in battle either. And lastly, in hard mode, you cannot go over the level of the upcoming gym leader's highest Pokemon. Lastly, we have hardcore mode, which contains all the rules of hard mode, but it also introduces a permadeath system.
Permadeath, level caps, no items, and set mode? This sounds like it was made for me. And since my last TheSmithPlays video did really well, it's time to beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Emerald Legacy. Let's do it. Littleroot Town, home of our rival May and her dad, Pokemon Professor Birch. He's the real one that I actually care about, since we steal our starter from him, Hail the Trico, and holy shit, is that a move description box? May's a scrub, so let's just head straight to the start of our journey. Pokeballs in hand, we grab Ocho Cinco and Graham, pick ourselves some berries that had a crazy rework in this game, then meet our dad at Petalburg Gym. We take some kid out to catch a Pokemon who I'm sure won't kill any of my Pokemon later. Then we grab Wattson and Johnson before taking on the Aqua Grunt in Petalburg Woods. In addition to Poochyena, this grunt has a Carvana, hinting at the Evil Team rework that we're going to see later on. I'm actually not going to skip to Rustboro yet, since once we exit the woods, the berry shop actually has a purpose now. We can buy a bunch of berries here, and once we grab a few badges, we can buy even more. Rustboro City, home of the first gym that we'll be getting into in just 1 second. We dip our toes into Route 16 and catch a newly added Pokemon to the route, Barkley the Spoink. With basically all the encounters we can get, sorry, Wismer will be back, we head inside and challenge Roxanne for our first gym battle of Pokemon Emerald Legacy. Roxanne leads with her first new Pokemon, Anorith, and I lead with Meryl. Since the goal wasn't to make like an Emerald Kaizo or a Run and Bun style ROM hack, this Anorith only has Scratch and Harden as its moveset. That means Meryl can totally safely fire off a couple of water guns and get our first KO of the battle. Second up is Roxanne's typical ace of Pokemon Emerald, Nose Pass, but with a couple of move upgrades. A water gun does like a quarter, then a Rock Tomb does really solid damage, dropping our speed by 1 stage in the process. We're in crit range now, so I swapped to Shroomish on a Rock Throw for about a quarter. We have Mega Drain at this point, which is a pretty solid move for this level cap, so after tanking another Rock Throw, we should do like nothing after an Oranberry. Awesome. A Headbutt from Nose Pass flinches us on the next turn, then after Shroomish tanks another, he connects with a Leech Seed, helping set us up for success. Shroomish risks a crit here, surviving a Rock Throw with 9 HP, before hitting a Mega Drain for another quarter, getting some nice recovery from that Leech Seed as well. That means we have the HP to stay in for one more Rock Throw on the next turn, then bring down Roxanne's ace with another Mega Drain. That leaves Rustboro's gym leader with only one Pokemon left, the final fossil Pokemon of Hoenn, Laleep. This thing also doesn't have a rock move, so it's not too bad. I swap into Dustox as the Leap sets up a Harden, boosting its defenses. Lucky for us though, we've got the special move, Confusion, so that boost isn't really going to help it. That kind of takes a while, so I'll fast forward as Dustox slowly chips down the Leap with poison damage and Confusion. With that, we've won our first gym of Pokemon Emerald Legacy, and let's keep it going. One badge down, but before we can go brag to May, Team Aqua is doing some stupid again. Give me back that Wingull. We also get Richardson the Whismer here, who's probably going to sit in the box unless it got any buffs. Okay, wait, maybe this Pokemon will actually be useful. Bryony takes us on a boat ride to Dewford Town, then we grab Hamilton the Tentacool and Rice the Horsey, who's conveniently holding the Dragon Scale it needs to evolve later, and just like that, it's time to take on our second gym battle against the fighting type master, Brawly. Brawly leads with his former ace, Makuhita, and I lead with Dustox. A super effective Confusion does a bit less than half, then it tries to start setting up with Bulk Up, boosting its attack and defense. Another Confusion brings Makuhita into the red as a +1 feint attack does pretty light damage. A Citrus Berry drags this fight out a little longer, but I'll save you the time. A couple more Confusions bring down Brawly's former ace Pokemon, and next up is Meditite. I swap into Spoink on a pretty light Thunder Punch, and since it's a special move in this game, it doesn't get boosted by Pure Power. After tanking another on the next turn, we're still above half, and our Confusion brings Meditite into the yellow. One more turn of taking Thunder Punch lets our Psychic type bring down Brawly's second Pokemon of the battle, leaving him only with his new ace, the Grass Fighting type Breloom. It uses Bulk Up on the first turn as we connect with the Confusion, bringing Breloom into the yellow, meaning another one is going to get a KO. That's perfect, since all we've got to do is tank a tackle. Jesus Christ. Well, anyways, Confusion gets the KO, and just like that, Brawly's been defeated, and we've won our second gym badge of the Hoenn region. 2 down, 6 to go, so let's get ourselves another encounter. We travel through Granite Cave, using our rappel so that after we give Steven his letter, we can try to get the 1% Beldum in Steven's room that Pat mentioned in his video. But we get Thomas the Makuhita instead. Too bad. Another quick boat ride to Slateport City ends in another couple battles against Team Aqua. Then we head to Route 110 where we get a Gulpin named Darnold. Did you get any buffs? Okay, well, a little bulk isn't too bad, I guess. Our second battle against May features the newly added Spoink to her team, but it's not too much trouble. Then her Combuskin and Wilmer go down to Spoink and Grovile, clearing the path to our next major stop, Mauville City. We beat up Wally, who still only has a single Ralt at this point, then grab a Sandshrew named Henry on Route 117, who's perfect for our next gym battle, especially since she evolves into Sandslash right before the level cap. We get some other evolutions too, but in this run, we've got so many encounters, I'm just gonna skip most of them. Just look over here if you want to know. Anyways, let's take on Gym Leader Wattson and his electric types. Wattson leads with his new Pokemon, Chinchou, and I lead with our newly evolved Hariyama. A Fake Out gets us some free damage on the first turn, then Hariyama tanks a pretty light Bubble Beam before connecting with a 2-hit Arm Thrust. Of course we only got 2. One more Bubble Beam hits Hariyama straight in the chest, and then we can actually bring down Wattson's lead with a final Arm Thrust. Next up is Magneton, Wattson's ace from Ruby and Sapphire. Since it's got a weakness to fighting type moves, we stay in, tank a Sonic Boom for 20 damage exactly, before hitting a 4-hit Arm Thrust for the KO. Okay, fine game. That makes up for the 3-hit earlier. Third up is Plusle, so I swap into Grovile since this thing only has electric and grass type moves in its learn set, meaning we can resist all its moves. We do instantly get paralyzed by Spark, then stay fully paralyzed on the next turn after tanking a quick attack, so we're not really off to a good start. We actually get to play the game after tanking another quick attack on the next turn, hitting a Razor Leaf for pretty unimpressive damage. Now we're in crit range, so I swap to Mightyena on a super light quick attack after Intimidate drops its attack. We take a Spark on the next turn for, oh, okay, chill, and a Para too? Really? At least we do connect with our bite, so Plusle goes down without causing the first death of the run. That leaves Wattson with only his ace left, Manectric, and its upgraded moveset doesn't really have a great way to deal with ground types. It sets up a Howl to boost its attack, but then Sandslash just goes underground after using Dig. Manectric still thinks it has a chance using another Howl before Sandslash connects with a super effective Dig, bringing down Manectric in one shot. With that, we've conquered gym number 3, and it's time to enter the mid-game of Emerald Legacy. Even with Wattson's super upgraded team, we're still cruising through the game. I'm waiting for the challenge, Pat. Where's it at? Route 111 is shared with the desert, so we're gonna skip this for now and come back, but we do get 2 more encounters pretty soon. On Route 112, we grab a pretty rare Metatite, and then in Fiery Path, we can use the Repel Manipulation trick to secure ourselves a fantastic encounter. Torkoal is the only Pokemon you can encounter on this route at level 21. So by leading with a level 21 Pokemon and using a Repel, we can guarantee ourselves a buffed Torkoal, who's probably already like an A tier Pokemon. On Route 113, we can heal at a nice old grandma's house, then have a chance at either the newly added Sneasel or Skarmory using another Repel Manip. We roll the Ice type named Chase, adding a pretty unique type combination to our team for this point in the game. Fall Arbor Town, home of still nothing, but at least we do grab the Dig TM. Just past the city center on Route 114, I take the opportunity to fish for our Magikarp named Jefferson. Once we evolve him into Gyarados, he actually learns Gust, giving this part flying type an actual flying type move. Inside Meteor Falls, Team Aqua and Magma argue it out over a meteorite, but instead of backtracking, the professor just fast travels us there right away. Pat, I love you. Please continue to spare my time. We've got to stop Team Magma from summoning Groudon, so let's go take on a few updated fights, including a double battle against some grunts and a really solid battle against Admin Courtney with a Cacnea that's dealt with by Torkoal, a Lairon dealt with by Sandslash, and a really threatening Zangoose that Hariyama can take down. That leaves only Maxie, and he actually has a pretty good team, which is a nice change of pace from the original. Maxie leads with Mightyena, and I lead with Hariyama. Fake Out gets us some free damage, then a Sand Attack lowers our accuracy. Hariyama doesn't care though, so he just hits through it and hits a 3-hit Arm Thrust. Bro, I just can't get a range today. We tank a light Headbutt quick, then finish off Maxie's lead with a final Arm Thrust. Second up is Golbat, so I swap to my Psychic type, Spoink. Does this thing have super effective bite? Of course it does. Spoink did accidentally risk a critical hit before bringing Golbat into the yellow with confusion. We aren't doing that again, so I swapped to Torkoal to tank the bite pretty well. A wing attack doesn't do much either, but our body slam just barely misses the KO again. To make things even better, Golbat uses Confuse Ray, forcing me to edit in a fast forward graphic. Waste of my time. Third up is Maxie's ace, Camerupt, so I swapped to Gyarados on the Magnitude 8 that he's immune to. A Dragon Rage does its consistent 40 damage as a super effective Rock Tomb lowers our speed, but does enough damage that I actually think I might need to worry about it. After we repeat the same thing on the next turn, I'm a little worried Gyarados isn't faster at -2, so I swap in a Sand Slash to tank the resisted move. From there, a single Sand Tomb brings down Camerupt, leaving Maxie with only Nuzleaf, a new addition to his team. I swap back to Hariyama as Nuzleaf uses a Growth, boosting its special attack. We use Fake Out for some free damage and it does a lot of damage, so this battle is basically wrapped up. A single hit of Arm Thrust brings down Maxie's final Pokemon of the battle, and that's the Mount Chimney conflict all taken care of. With all that noise stopped for now, we can refocus on our gym badge quest. So we head down Mount Chimney through Jagged Pass, catching a Numel named Jones along the way, then arrive in Lava Ridge Town. We grab the Why Not egg, but since I don't really feel like hatching it now or ever, we're just going to focus on Flannery's gym battle instead. Since Horsey evolves into Seadra right at the level cap of 32, we can make use of that Hell Dragon scale he came with, then evolve our Seahorse into the Water Dragon type Kingdra. That gives us a great 4x resistance to fire type moves, just in time for the fire type gym. We head through the gym puzzle, literally fighting every single trainer along the way, since I was too lazy to look it up. Then we challenge the newest Hoenn gym leader, Flannery. Flannery leads with her new Vulpix, and I lead with Kingdra. A Bubble Beam just misses the KO, leaving Vulpix in the red as it sets up a Sunny Day, boosting fire type moves and weakening water ones. That's a little annoying, but we'll make it work somehow. A Twister brings down Flannery's lead, and second up is Magcargo, who now has a super powered version of Magma Armor that makes its 4x weakness to water into a resistance. I try an Aurora Beam, but that's just embarrassing. So I swap into Sand Slash on a super weak Rock Throw. We use Dig as Magcargo just misses an overheat since we're underground, then the sun finally fades. Before they can set it up again, Sand Slash secures a KO with a 4x super effective Dig. Third up is Camerupt, and since ground resists fire moves, we can fire off a Sand Tomb for almost half, then we take an overheat for... what? Am I stupid? I just imagined that. Cool. Awesome. Well, that's our first death of the run. I bring Kingdra back in, which I should have done in the first place, then get a KO with 4x super effective Bubble Beam. That leaves Flannery with only her ace, which hasn't changed from the original Emerald, Torkoal. Flannery knows she's pretty screwed here though, since after we hit a Bubble Beam for over half, she tries pulling out the forbidden attract strategies. Lucky for us though, Kingdra just watched her friend die and isn't about to be swayed by the likes of Love or Torkoal. One more Bubble Beam gets the job done, and just like that, we're pushing through the 4th gym of Hoenn. In Sand Slash's memory, we continue pushing forwards. Once we walk out of the gym, we run into May, who gives us the go goggles like normal, but then she offers to fast travel us back to Petalburg for the next gym fight, instead of walking all the way there. All hail our savior, TheSmithPlays. There's only a 1 level difference in our level cap and nothing else to do, so after we work our way through Norman's gym maze, it's time for our first real battle against our father, Petalburg City gym leader, Norman. Norman leads with Vigoroth and I lead with Hariyama. A Fake Out gets us some free damage on the first turn, but then Vigoroth uses Encore, locking us into the now useless move. That feels like something I would do. I swap out into Gyarados for an Intimidate, then he tanks a Slash for fairly light damage. A Facade on the next turn doesn't hit too hard at -1, then a Dragon Rage connects for its guaranteed 40 damage. We should still be at a crit range, so I stay in with Gyarados, tank one more Facade down to the yellow, then finish off Norman's lead with a final Dragon Rage. Next up for our father is a new Pokemon of his, Girafarig. It's got super effective Shockwave, so I swap out into the newly evolved Medicham, who tanks it for like a quarter. A Psybeam on the next turn does a bit more than I was expecting it to do, but our Rolling Kick does way more than I was expecting after that, since a crit just brings down Norman's second Pokemon. Third up is Linoon, who has the move Belly Drum, a move that cuts the user's HP in half and maxes out their attack. We can't really let that happen, so we have to stay in here. We watch Linoon drop its own HP to half, then secure a KO with a super effective Rolling Kick. That leaves Norman with only his ace, Slaking, left, and even though it has the stats of a legendary Pokemon, this shouldn't be too bad for us. I swap into Torkoal, who takes a Facade for a bit less than half. Since we didn't get crit switching in, this battle is as good as over. Since Slaking needs to loaf around every other turn, Torkoal can just use the move Slack Off to heal ourselves up, and then when Slaking can actually attack, we can just use the move Protect to fully block any damage. Torkoal also has a Lepa Berry just in case we run out of Protect PP, but after a few turns, a critical hit Heat Wave speeds this up tremendously. It only takes a couple more turns after that to finish off Norman's ace, and with that, we've taken down our father for our 5th gym badge of the run. Let's keep it going. For our second gym in a row, we immediately get stopped right as we walk out of the gym, this time by Wally's father. He gives us the HM for Surf, thank God, and Wally shows up to fast travel us to Mauville. How can I ever go back to regular Emerald after this? New Mauville gets us a Voltorb named Robinson, and Route 118 nets us nothing, because I thought this was a different route once you cross through water, and I ran from a Wingull. Very cool. At least we got citrus berries as a consolation prize. On Route 119, we can use a Repel Manip to net ourselves either a Kecleon or a Tropius, and we roll the underwhelming Grass, flying type. That gets thick fat now? Wait, that's actually pretty cool. Okay. This could actually be really... I got chlorophyll. Yeah. The Weather Institute battle is reworked in Emerald Legacy, giving Shelly a Mightyena, a Gorbis, and a Seviper. I think her overall team layout is really solid, and I'm looking forward to the final battle against her later on. We also fight May right across the bridge, who has a more diverse team with a Grumpig and a Kecleon, but overall, she's not too bad. Fortree City, home of the 6th gym and a few magic tree houses. We're gonna run straight past it onto Route 120, grab the Sylph Scope from Steven, then head inside the gym to take on Winona and her flying types. Winona leads with Tropius, and I lead with Kingdra. Since hers actually has thick fat, I'm looking at you, our 4x super effective Ice Beam does like a third. I'm not going to bore you, Kingdra just hits 4 Aurora Beams. Yes, we needed 4x super effective Aurora Beams to bring down Tropius. Next up is Pelipper, so I swap out into Electrode on an Ice Beam for less than half. From here, we can outspeed and hit a 4x super effective Thunderbolt this time for a clean one-shot KO. Third up is Altaria with super effective Earthquake, so I swap into Gyarados to dodge it thanks to his flying typing. Since Altaria can't really do a lot of damage to Gyarados, and we'd only get KO'd by like 3 crits in a row, I'm gonna fast forward here too. A few Dragon Rages bring down Winona's ace, and she sends out Skarmory 4th. I swap into Torkoal, who tanks an Aerial Ace super well switching in. After eating a second one, we connect with a Heat Wave, bringing Skarmory into the red. From here, Torkoal tanks one final Aerial Ace before finishing off Winona's 4th Pokemon of the battle with another Heat Wave. Last up is Swellow, a Pokemon that can be super threatening with the Guts ability. Torkoal tanks a bit of damage from Takedown, then uses Slack Off, healing herself back up to almost full. I know I've done it a lot in this battle already, but I'm gonna fast forward again so I don't repeat myself over and over. Torkoal stays healthy with Slack Off, then chips Swellow down with a few Heat Waves. With that, Winona's last Pokemon is down, and we've got our 6th gym badge of the run. And now it's time for some evil team shenanigans. We had access to Surf after Norman, but now that we also have Fly available too, we can actually use those HMs to explore a little and backtrack. Over at the berry shop, we can buy citrus and lum berries, and over at the abandoned ship, we can grab a TM for Ice Beam. Could I get a bunch of encounters on these water routes? Yeah, definitely. Do I want to keep track of what routes I can still get encounters on? Not even a little bit. Pat did say that Porygon was added to the game corner in Mauville, but that seems to be like post-game only, which is kind of a bummer. We run through Route 121, grab a Gloom named Nakua, then grab an Absol on Route 122 named Burrow. Once we get to Lily Cove City, we actually need to fight the optional battle against the rival in front of the department store. Normally, everyone kind of just skips this, including me, but Pat said a bunch of stuff becomes available to buy later on, so we'll challenge May here. I know that her motivation has like changed in Legacy, but I really feel like May is a little underpowered here. I know that she wants to like focus on the Pokedex now, but her team is at or below the last level cap, which I'm not a big fan of. Her team diversity is still a really strong point, but I wish she had just a little bit more firepower. Next, we head over to Mount Pyre, the home of the new 2nd act of the evil team story. At the summit, Maxie and Archie argue over how to fix the world, not how to destroy it, with Maxie wanting to use Kyogre to create more farmland, and Archie wanting to use Kyogre to end worldwide droughts. I like this development in the story, and I really like the new double battle against Archie and Matt. Well, I guess I like the idea of the double battle. It kind of has the same problem as against May earlier. I feel like both Archie and Matt are a little underpowered here. Matt being lower level than Archie is totally fine, but I'd like to see Archie be a little bit stronger overall. He's only 1 level over the previous cap after 2 routes, the May battle, and a bunch of optionals in Mount Pyre. I think we could bump him up to at least the 40s. I do dig the team changes though. I love that Shelly and Matt have Gorbis and Huntail. Really fun way to introduce these newly introduced split evolution Pokemon. Aqua double battle down, now it's time to take on Team Magma. We do get a couple new encounters along the way back to Mount Chimney. A Vulpix named Beckham Jr. from Mount Pyre, and a Girafarig named AB84 from the Safari Zone. Both these guys should be pretty solid additions to the team. I'm back Team Magma. Who's ready to get their kicked. We do grab a Geodude here in the Magma Hideout, and then we fight some grunts until Tabitha near the end of the dungeon. She's also under the last level cap for some reason, so we're just gonna skip straight to the final battle against Maxie. He leads with Houndoom and I lead with Gyarados. Our first surf just barely misses the KO, then Houndoom sets up the Sun to make my life a lot harder for our water types. We finish off Maxie's lead with a bite, and second up is Aggron. I swap out into Camerupt on an Iron Defense, then we hit a 4 times super effective Earthquake on the next turn for a bit more than half. Let's see how Aggron responds. Just another Iron Defense. Cool. Another Earthquake brings it down, and Maxie sends out his own Camerupt to third. It sets up an Amnesia, boosting its special defense, and I misclick and use Flame Wheel for literally nothing. Yeah, that's my bad. I swapped to Gyarados on what I thought would be an Earthquake, but it was just another Amnesia. Surf brings the Fire Ground type down to the yellow, then Maxie sets up a third Amnesia, maxing out Camerupt's special defense at +6. Another Surf on the next turn still brings it down though, but like, I guess it tried. Fourth up is Shiftry, so I swap into Torkoal on a super light Feint attack. After that, Maxie's grass type does us a favor by setting up the Sun with Sunny Day, and that's perfect timing for my now boosted Heat Wave to absolutely destroy Shiftry. That leaves only Crobat left, but it can't do enough damage to Torkoal before a couple Sun boosted Heat Waves bring it down. With that, Team Magma is stopped for like 10 minutes, and we've got to go right back to fighting the other evil team. Team Aqua Hideout is right outside Lily Cove, and I guess for some reason, they still think they can beat me. Remember Mount Pyre like a second ago? We fight Matt at the end of the gauntlet, who's a couple levels higher than Mount Pyre now, and he also added a new Machamp, but that's not enough for him to stand in my way. We take him down, then Archie gets away in his submarine, escaping to the seafloor cavern. We'll need dive to get there, so let's surf over to Mossdeep and grab the HM. Hey Steve, wait, where the fuck? Oh, yeah, the Space Center. I forgot about that. We're gonna need another badge to use that, so we traverse the maze that is the Mossdeep gym, and then take on Tate and Liza for our 7th Hoenn gym badge. Tate and Liza lead with Xatu and Claydol, and I lead with Absol and Mightyena. I don't want to tank Earthquakes all battle, so I double up into Claydol with 2 crunches. Surprisingly, Absol just one-shots the part ground type, so when Tate and Liza send out Medicham, Xatu sets up the Sun, which is going to be great for us later, then Mightyena's Crunch connects straight into Medicham for over half. On the next turn, I swap Mightyena out for Tropius, then Absol secures our second KO of the battle with a Crunch into Medicham. That brings Chimecho out, and Xatu sets up a Calm Mind, boosting its special attack and special defense. I want to get rid of that as soon as possible, so Tropius does some chip damage to Chimecho with Solar Beam, then Absol can get his third KO of the battle with another Crunch on Xatu. Chimecho did get a critical hit Psychic on Tropius, bringing our grass type down to the yellow before a Citrus Berry, but we shouldn't worry about that too much. A Solar Beam on the next turn actually doesn't get the KO on Solrock, who came out next, leaving it alive on a Sliver. Then Absol finishes it off, getting KO number 4 with another Crunch. Lunatone comes out next, leaving the twin gym leaders with no Pokemon left in the back. Chimecho also sets up a Wish, but I'm gonna make sure it never gets to use that. Tropius uses Synthesis to get back to full HP, then Absol gets his 5th KO of the battle, bringing down Chimecho and leaving only Lunatone left for Mossdeep City's gym leaders. Absol is faster than Tropius again, so our Dark type can hit another super effective Crunch that actually gets a one-shot KO. That's a full sweep for Absol, and we've won ourselves the 7th gym badge of Hoenn. Now, let's go save the world. A bunch of people all dressed the same walking into a space station feels a little concerning, so let's go take them down. We battle a few grunts, including a small battle against Courtney, before we have a really scary double battle with Steven against Maxie and Tabitha. Since I can only bring 3 Pokemon to pair with Steven's 3 Pokemon, it makes our team building a little trickier. I went with Kingdra, Camerupt, and Hariyama, but I was pretty lucky that the AI seemed to really want to target Steven's Pokemon, so none of our Pokemon were really in any danger. Really great double battle design though. Dive HM in hand, let's go stop Archie once and for all. We travel underneath the waves of Hoenn, arriving in the seafloor cavern, and then doing some quick strength puzzles. After that, we meet face to face with the Team Aqua leader in a final battle. Archie leads with Mightyena, and I lead with Hariyama. Fake Out gets us some free damage on the first turn, Super Fang cuts our HP exactly in half, then a Brick Break misses the KO thanks to the Intimidate attack drop. Another Super Fang cuts our HP in half again, and I get lazy and press Knock Off instead of Brick Break, and it actually doesn't get the KO from there, leaving Mightyena with an even smaller sliver of HP. Now I'm kinda worried about losing my fighting type, so I swap into Electrode as Mightyena thankfully just misses another Super Fang. From here, we outspeed and get our first KO of the battle, and second up is Machamp. I swap into Sceptile, expecting an Earthquake, but it actually goes for Rock Tomb, dropping our speed. I don't want to swap into Girafarig and get my speed dropped, so we stay in and hit a Leaf Blade for over half before getting hit into the yellow, and our speed dropped to -2. We're actually still faster here thanks to Sceptile buffs, thanks Pat, and we had our second KO with another Okay, surviving on 1 HP. Awesome. Well, we didn't get punished, surviving a vital throw in the red. I want to reposition here, so swap to Tentacruel, who gets hit with a Rock Tomb, doing almost half and dropping our speed. We do get a KO in the next turn with Surf, but this battle really isn't going how I expected it. Third up is Wailord, but since this Pokemon only has water-type attacking moves, I just stay in with Tentacruel. Sludge Bomb brings it down after a few turns, and we only lose 7 HP in the process. Fourth up is Crobat, so I swap into Electrode on a resisted Air Cutter for some light damage. Thunderbolt leaves Crobat in the red, because of course it did. Then Electrode tanks a Sludge Bomb down to the yellow before a held Citrus Berry gets us some recovery. One more Thunderbolt brings down Crobat, and that leaves Archie with only his ace left, Sharpedo. Thankfully, a single Thunderbolt is enough to get a KO here, but this battle really didn't go well for me. I hope this isn't like a sign of things to come or something. Kyogre's making it rain, but in the bad way. Groudon is trying to win a fight, essentially standing on a bar stool in a flood, and I need to end this because I guess it's my problem now. Wallace tells us to go to Sky Pillar, so we do and meet Rayquaza, and then we fly back. I didn't bring a Flymon. Now that we're back, Rayquaza tells the others to fuck off, and just like that, we can continue our run. After nailing the ice puzzle on the first try, and I'm not kidding the time, look at this, it's time for our showdown with the final gym leader of Hoenn, Wallace. Wallace leads with Tentacruel, and I lead with Electrode. Okay, so I kind of forgot the cap was 51, even though it's literally right there, but my team is at 50. That's just a nerf for me. Anyways, Electrode fires off a Thunderbolt that does over half, then tanks an Ice Beam for around third. We fire off one more Thunderbolt, securing the first KO of the battle. Second up is Whiscash, so I swap into Tropius, dodging the incoming Earthquake thanks to its flying type. Since we're slower, Whiscash sets up the rain first, then Tropius sets up the sun right after, overriding it. Thanks to our Chlorophyll ability, now we're faster, so Tropius can get a one-shot KO with a one-turn Solar Beam, before Whiscash can set the rain up again. Third up is Masquerain, who isn't a water type like in some hacks, but we've got to swap. I bring in Dustox, who immediately gets paralyzed by Sunspore, making this a little more annoying. Dustox dodges a Blizzard, then hits a Toxic, putting Masquerain on a timer. I swap to Kingdra, but a Blizzard does a huge chunk to my part Dragon type. At this point, I kind of realize I have no plan at all for this Masquerain, so let's just improvise. Ice Beam brings Masquerain into the red, but then Wallace's bug type hits a second Stun Spore, paralyzing our second Pokemon of the battle. Toxic damage brings down Masquerain, but now I've got no answer for Melodic in the back with this damage on Kingdra. And when Wallace sends out Ludicolo next, my answer to that is also paralyzed. I swap into Dustox regardless, as Ludicolo sets up a double team. At this point, I've realized the grave mistake I've made, and I'm gonna need some luck to get out of it. Did I get that luck? No, of course I didn't, obviously. Ludicolo sets up double teams, and I was hoping to sneak in like a little damage before it got out of control, but Dustox stayed fully paralyzed for 5 turns in a row. 5! So Ludicolo gets to +6 evasion and gets off a Leech Seed and did some damage before I can even play the game. Now I'm trying to like spam Moonlight, I'm trying to survive, but that didn't work. So now I try to get some chip with Signal Beam, but we missed every single attack. So in the end, Dustox goes down without a fight. Like not even a decent fight, like it's a whimper. Ugh. Anyways, I did bring out Sceptile to try to save the run, and he did like a little bit of damage before going down to 12 HP, and we're still in a terrible, no good, very bad spot. Awesome. I bring Tropius out now, hoping for a miracle, as she tanks a Water Pulse for super light damage coming in. I set up the Sun on the next turn to lessen the Water Pulse damage, but that also lets me fire off more Solar Beams. I'm gonna fast forward for the third time on just this Ludicolo, but eventually we hit Solar Beams to actually take down Ludicolo, and it only cost me the life of Dustox, all the HP on Sceptile, all the Solar Beam PP Tropius had, and honestly, my will to live at this point. Oh, and there's also still a leftovers Milotic in the back that comes out now, and this is going to end my run, isn't it? Since we're Chlorophyll, not Thick Fat, we can't take an Ice Beam, so I swap into Kingdra, who tanks it not very well, but like, he did tank it, I guess. Another Ice Beam brings Kingdra down to the yellow as we retaliate with a Body Slam that gets a lucky paralysis. Hopefully this is the Pokemon gods trying to do me a solid here, but we're definitely too low to stay in. So I swap into Absol on an Ice Beam for almost half. I really don't want to lose this Pokemon yet, so I swap to Electrode as my Milotic goes underwater for dive. That's not ideal, so I swap into Tropius to tank the resisted water move. That baits Ice Beam again, so I bring Electrode back in for some fairly light damage. The plan now is to pivot around Electrode, get some chip damage, and then when it goes underwater for dive, switch into a grass type to tank it. Does this plan go well? No, but we actually do get bailed out by the paralysis from Body Slam. Electrode swaps in on a full para turn, then doesn't risk a crit on the next turn because of one, letting him secure a final KO of the battle, and keeping the death total at only 1 Pokemon. With that, we've taken down Wallace, and we've barely managed to hold our team together. I'm sure the Elite Four will be fine, right? One quick surfing trip later, and we're in Evergrande City, home of the Pokemon League. Technically, we do need to go through Victory Road first, but hey, that's gonna be fine, right? We've got a final battle against Wally just inside, and he's actually got a real team that we've got to plan for. He leads with Delcatty, and I lead with Medicham. A double edge does some pretty big damage for this being a Delcatty, but the recoil combined with super effective rolling kick brings down Wally's first Pokemon. Second up is Altaria, so I swap into Kingdra on a pretty light Aerial Ace. Since this thing has no actual dragon moves, Kingdra can pretty easily bring down Wally's second Pokemon with a few Dragon Breaths. Third up is Azumarill, and I don't think I can KO me quite yet, so I stay in and use another Dragon Breath for a bit less than half, as our part Dragon type tanks a neutral Ice Beam. That crits and freezes, by the way, and that leaves us at 71 HP and unable to move. I swap to Electrode on another Ice Beam for pretty light damage, then outspeed on the next turn to secure a KO with a super effective Thunderbolt. Fourth is Roselia, so I pivot through my 4x Grass Resistance, Kingdra, and wait, P, what? No, that's a Water Resistance. You're neutral to Grass. Sakes. Well, there goes my Dragon type. I bring in Camera up to next, who just tanks another turn of Petal Dance for less than half before just missing the KO. This really isn't going my way, huh? I swap into Girafarig, tanking the third turn of Petal Dance, and then we can outspeed Kingdra's Murderer and finish it off with a super effective Psychic. But Wally still got 2 Pokemon left to bring down. Fifth up is Magneton, so I swap into my part Ground type, Camera up, who's immune to the incoming Thunder Wave. A Tri-Attack doesn't do very threatening damage, then we connect with a 4x super effective Earthquake, leaving Wally with only his ace Pokemon left, Gardevoir. I swap into Absol on the incoming Psychic that he's immune to, then put a quick bow on this battle by outspeeding and getting a KO with super effective Crunch. That's Wally down, but he took one of my best Pokemon with him. We hustle through Victory Road and then arrive in our final stop for the journey, Evergrande City. Wait, weren't we already here? Whatever. Let's just pick our team for this Elite Four. Now, I'm looking at everyone's teams and movesets, but I'm not going to plan all the fights out. I'm just going to go on vibes. So with that being said, here's the final team I picked. Hariyama is going to be my Dark and Ice type counter. Golem should be a pretty good physical tank and help with a few problematic Pokemon. Torkoal should be awesome for Glacia and Steven. Sneasel is literally just here to press ice moves against Drake. Absol is going to be the exact same for Phoebe. And Sceptile is kind of here for vibes. I didn't really know who to bring with Kingdra being dead, so we've got this guy. Can these 6 meet every challenge the Elite Four has to offer? Let's find out. First up is Sydney and his team of Dark types. He leads with Intimidate Mightyena, and I lead with Hariyama. With our attack dropped, our Fake Out does like basically nothing, but hey, free damage is free damage. A Super Fang misses, but it would have cut my HP in half. And at -1, a super effective superpower can actually secure the KO on Sydney's lead Pokemon. Murkrow is out second, and I swap into Golem on the resisted Sky Attack for some light damage, then get outsped on the next turn, so we've got to tank a super effective Steel Wing, leaving us just above half. After that, a single super effective Rock Tomb brings down Sydney's Flying type. Third up is Shiftry, so I swap Golem for Torkoal, and she tanks the resisted Leaf Blade for a little bit of damage. I'm assuming this has Chlorophyll, meaning I don't want to set up the sun, so Torkoal just tanks an extra Sensory to above half, then retaliates with a super effective Heat Wave for the one-shot KO. Sydney's down to his last 2 Pokemon, one of them being Crawdont, who's out next. I swap into Sceptile on a resisted Crabhammer, then outspeed on the next turn for an easy one-shot with Leaf Blade. That leaves Sydney with only his Absol left, and even though it has Aerial Ace, I think we're probably good to stay in for a turn. Leaf Blade does over half, then Absol's Aerial Ace would have KO'd with a crit. Okay, that was a horrible plan. Absol's held Foggy Berry makes me kind of unconfident that Leaf Blade will get a KO here, so I swap into Golem on a Rock Slide to bait an Iron Tail, then swap to Hariyama on the Iron Tail for less than half. A Fake Out does some solid chip damage, and that gives me an idea. What if I just keep doing this? I pivot between Hariyama, Golem, and Torkoal, then back to Hariyama, baiting Aerial Ace, Iron Tail, then Rock Slide. This lets me get off a Fake Out 100% safe with Hariyama every single turn, and we can slowly chip down Absol's HP. Was this the best plan in the world? Absolutely not. Did it work? Hell yeah, it did. Absol goes down after a few turns, and that takes care of Sydney. 1 of 4 battles down, but I really gotta lock in for the rest of these battles. Phoebe is the second Elite Four member we've got to take on, and she leads with Sableye and I lead with Absol. A Crunch does over half, then the weaknessless Pokemon uses Confuse Ray, trying to turn this battle into an RNG nightmare. Lucky for us, I gave Absol a Lumberry, curing that confusion right away. That means we're free to fire off a second Crunch, bringing down Sydney's lead Pokemon. Second up is Medicham, who's got a pretty threatening high jump kick. I swap into Sceptile, who would have died to a crit again. I promise I have nothing against him. I'm just being brave today. We use Detect on the next turn, causing Medicham to miss its high jump kick and lose half its HP in the process. I swap into Torkoal on another high jump kick, and this should bait a Psychic. I swap into Absol as I'm proven correct, giving us a completely free swap. From here, a Crunch brings down Phoebe's second Pokemon, and third up is Banette. I don't remember seeing any buffs for this thing in the documentation, so a Crunch from Absol just gets a pretty easy one-shot KO here. Fourth up is Ninetales, so I swap into Hariyama on a Will-O-Wisp that just misses. Fake Out gets a crit, so that's a lot of free damage. Then Ninetales hits the Will-O-Wisp on the next turn, burning Hariyama and having our physical attack, before our superpower right after does a lot less than I would have liked. I'm assuming I can tank one Shadow Ball, and after we stay in, I'm proven to be correct again. We stay above half HP, then hit another superpower, leaving Ninetales with just a sliver of HP. That Shadow Ball didn't do enough to KO with a crit here, so we stay in, tank one to the yellow, and finish off Ninetales with a final knockoff. That leaves Phoebe with only her ace Dusclops left, and this one shouldn't be too bad. I swap back into Absol on a resisted Shadow Ball for some light damage, and then on the next turn, a Crunch does over half and an Ice Beam brings our sweeper into the yellow. Our HP doesn't really matter anymore though, since we can just outspeed and finish off Dusclops with one more super effective Crunch. With that, we've brought down the second Elite Four member of the run and risked Sceptile's life for a second battle in a row. On to the next. The third Elite Four member of Hoenn is Glacia and her ice types. She leads with Glalie, and I lead with Torkoal. It sets up the Hail in the first turn, so I counter by using Sunny Day, overwriting it and setting up the Sun. I'm hoping Glacia will kind of just let me have the Sun up, but Glalie uses Hail again on the next turn, getting rid of my Sun, so when Torkoal uses Heat Wave, we can't quite secure the KO. A non-stab Water Pulse leaves Torkoal above half, then we finish off Glacia's lead with a second Heat Wave. Next up is Cast Form, so I swap into Sceptile on a resisted Hydro Pump for some embarrassing damage. This should bait the Ice-type Weather Ball now, so I bring in Thick Fat Hariyama to tank it super well. Fake Out gets us some free damage, and that was also the last turn of Hail, meaning Cast Form can turn back into its regular normal type form. It sets up the Hail again to turn back into an Ice type, but that doesn't get rid of its fighting type weakness. A single super effective superpower brings down Glacia's second Pokemon of the fight. Third up is Piloswine, so I swap into Sceptile to catch the resisted Earthquake. We detect to waste a turn of Hail, then bring Hariyama back in on a Thick Fat resisted Blizzard. Fake Out for some free damage, and boom, Hail is over, and then we can hit a superpower now that we've gotten rid of our attack and defense drops from earlier. That brings down Piloswine, and Glacia is down to less than half her team. Fourth up is Sneasel, and since it's holding a Scope Lens to boost its already high crit rate move Slash, I do not want to stay in here. I swap to Golem to tank it super well, then bring in Absol on a Blizzard that just misses. Sneasel thinks it's doing something by setting up a Swords Dance on the next turn, but even the 50 base power Rock Smash secures Absol the KO thanks to its 4x weakness. That leaves Glacia with only her ace left, Walrein. Absol uses Perish Song, putting Walrein on a timer as it just sets up the Hail again. I swap to Sneasel, making his debut and tanking a Blizzard for some light damage. That should bait Surf, so I bring in Sceptile, and this time, not risking a crit. Well, maybe with the Hail damage, but I tried my best, okay? We detect to burn one more turn, and with that, the Perish count falls to 0, and we've taken down Glacia. Only one Elite Four battle left to go. Drake is the final challenge before Steven, but calling him a challenge might be a little generous, actually. He leads with Flygon, and I lead with Sneasel. Even though Ice is a special type in this game, Sneasel can still outspeed and get a one-shot KO with a 4x super effective Ice Punch, using his worst attacking stat. Second up is Salamence, that drops our attack with its Intimidate ability. Since we're still using special moves, Sneasel outspeeds again and brings down Drake's ace with another Ice Punch before you can even say overrated. Third up is Huntail, so I swap to Sceptile on a resisted Hydro Pump that just missed. From here, a single Leaf Blade brings down Drake's third Pokemon, and we're making record time on this one. Fourth is Altaria, so I bring in Golem on a super weak Sky attack. I don't think Earthquake could KO us here, so I stay in, tank one to above half HP, then fire off a super effective Rock Tomb for over half. I want some HP back, so after Golem tanks another Earthquake into the yellow, we use a combination of the move Rest and a Chesto Berry to heal us back up to full. From here, we're totally safe from any critical hits, so Golem tanks one final Earthquake before finishing off Altaria with a second Rock Tomb. That leaves only Kingdra left to bring down, and we're looking pretty good. I swapped to Sceptile on a Surf for some light damage, and since this thing doesn't have any ice moves, we're totally safe. A Dragon Claw brings Kingdra down to the yellow before a Dragon Breath does pretty embarrassing damage for only being one level lower than me. Another Dragon Claw finishes off Kingdra and the battle, and we're through the Hoenn Elite Four. Next stop, the Champion. We enter the final chamber of the Elite Four, Champion Steven's domain. Let's do this. Steven leads with Skarmory, and I lead with Torkoal. A Sky attack does pretty decent damage before Torkoal sets up the Sun. This is basically just to avoid triggering Skarmory's held Lychee Berry. On the next turn, a Toxic poisons Torkoal before a Lum Berry cures it. Then a Slack Off brings our Fire type back to full HP. One more Sky attack leaves us above half, then Torkoal gets a one-shot KO on Steven's lead with a Sun-boosted, super effective Heat Wave. Second up is Claydol, so I swap into Sceptile as it sets up a Light Screen to reduce special damage. I'm not going to waste your time here. Claydol can't really threaten Sceptile with Psychics, and Light Screen forces us to use use 3 Leaf Blades before getting the KO. Third up is our Maldo with a held Choice Band. I want to see what move it's going to go for and lock itself into, so we use Detect, and it seems to be going for Iron Tail, which is probably the best case scenario. I swap back into Torkoal, who tanks the resisted move really well. I'm going to fast forward here again, since we just stall with Slack Off and chip it down with Heat Wave. It takes a little bit, but I don't really feel like sounding like a toy getting its string pulled. Fourth up is Aggron, and here's where this gets a little shaky. I really need Metagross to come out last, so I need to KO this with something that won't bait Psychic or Earthquake after. Heat Wave drops Aggron to half, then I swap into Hariyama for some free Fake Out damage. After that, I bring in Golem on an Iron Tail for some big damage. After a little bit of chip with Rock Tomb, we sacrifice our ground type, hopefully giving us the edge we need to win this battle. I bring in Sneasel, a perfect Pokemon to bait a Rock type Ancient Power from the leap in the back. An Ice Punch misses the KO. And then an Iron Tail brings down our Ice type. This is really bad. I bring Torkoal back in, just deciding to see what she's going to bait out instead. A Rock Slide leaves us at 19 HP, and then we get fully paralyzed. This is going from bad to worse, huh? Well, I sack Torkoal here, then bring in Absol to finish the job. Rock Smash takes down Aggron, and Steven sends out Leap. Oh, great, awesome, we're back on track. I swap to Hariyama as it sets up a curse, boosting its attack and defense while dropping its speed. Fake Out doesn't really get any free damage because it's got a health leftover, but I'm still feeling pretty good. Brick Break does around half, then the Leap sets up a second curse, which is getting a little scary, but it shouldn't be a big deal. We use a higher power move, Super Power, that just misses the KO. Of course it did. To make matters worse, the Leap uses Recover, healing back up to over half HP. At this point, I've realized how dire this situation really is. Brick Break barely makes a dent in Credili's HP, then another Recover heals it to almost full, and I think the writing might be on the wall now. I swapped to Sceptile on another curse, and I'm really hoping our special grass moves will do anything. A Leaf Blade does about a third, but then the fossil Pokemon hits a +3 Ancient Power, bringing it down from over half. I bring Hariyama back in, and after a Fake Out, our superpower only does a third and drops our attack and defense again. Then another Recover puts this battle out of reach for us. I try to reset our stats by swapping to Absol, but of course, the Leap just goes for an Ancient Power on the turn I decide to switch. Down goes Absol, and it's Hariyama against the world. We do get a crit superpower on the next turn, bringing down the Leap, but with Metagross left in the back, this run is as good as over. A Psychic pretty easily brings down our fighting type, and with that, we've officially failed a Hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Emerald Legacy. Thanks guys so much for watching this one. I don't know what it is about Pat's ROM hacks, but I just keep seeming to fail against the Elite Four. Instead of blaming myself for bad plays, I'm just going to give him the credit for really good team design, because that's how you deal with failure, obviously. Overall, I loved this hack. It felt super high quality, well balanced, except for a few fights in the mid game that I'd raise the levels of. I love the buff to some underused Pokemon and the reworking of the Wally story. This game is a blast. Please go try it yourself. I linked Pat's video and the download in the description. I also want to thank Pat for working on this collection of ROM hacks. This might be my new default version of Pokemon Emerald. Another huge shout out to his entire team. I left all the credits in the description and they should be on screen now as well. Thanks guys so much for watching. Let me know if you want to see me try this again in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.